Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, my name's Sam. I'm here to talk to you about the habits of fast developers. There's another slide title there. Cool, so just about me, I'm an engineering manager now. I'm no longer a software developer by day. I used to do iOS. I was doing iOS in the boarding house of my high school. Before I left high school, I had about 12 apps on the App Store, and I would not show you them because they're just embarrassing, maybe another year. But I was doing iOS all the way up until about 2017, 2018, where I was working at the Bank of New Zealand, and then I made my way into the back-end world. I just said New Zealand in a funny way. I will speak the funny way the rest of the time. I am from New Zealand, born and raised in Christchurch, but I call Sydney home now. This is my 8th Dev World, 8th time attending and speaking. Very honoured to be in front of you all today again. It's definitely one of my favourite conferences. And then finally, in terms of disclaimer, thoughts on my own today. These are my thoughts. They do not belong to my employer. Why would my employer have thoughts about this? Also, M dashes are my own. I like using them. I'm saddened that ChatGPT uses them a lot too. But all the M dashes I put there, and I'm proud of them. Today, we're going to talk about why you'd want to go fast, why you should even give a shit. And then we'll talk about mindsets and approach. We'll talk about mastering your tools. I'll talk about efficient workflow practices, collaboration and knowledge sharing, continuous improvement, and of course we'll have to talk about AI a little bit, because a lot of the stuff I'll say today might seem silly when you can just prompt your way to success, maybe. So we'll talk about AI at the end. Second disclaimer, I'm not perfect at this stuff. The rest of the talk is going to be quite straightforward in the sense that it's going to have a tone that I do this all the time and I'm the best at it, and you should get good at it too. But I'm obviously not the fastest developer in the world. Today I've got a set of habits and tools to present to you. I don't use them all myself. They go in and out of my habit and my fingers and my brain. Some of these you might already know, I'm sorry if you do, but hopefully some of them are new. The point is, keep adding to your toolkit, to your habits, and hopefully you can put them into practice next time you're in front of a computer. So, why would you want to go fast? Simply put, you want to get more done in the same amount of time. And that's really helpful. It's really helpful to a business that pays you by the hour, essentially. But it's also good when the time calls for it. If there's a production issue, you can be the one that is thought of in your team or in your business to be the one to solve it. You can work quickly under pressure when time is critical and users are being affected. Something means that time is critical, and you can be a valuable person in the organization. But also things like proof of concepts. Early on in my career, I had the chance to go out to New York with a startup I was working with, and I had already built that reputation of being a fast developer. And we had a meeting with a large cosmetics brand, couldn't possibly say, but it has the same name as our computers. And that night, that day in the meeting, they were like, oh, I'd love to see a prototype of this working. And we all sort of just looked at each other going, yeah, that'll take a while. So that night in the hotel room, I built the prototype, and the next day in the meeting, we pitched this integration with that person's company and some iBeacon stuff and some push notifications that I used to do back early in my early career. So being fast means you can do proof of concepts very quickly, particularly in high pressure situations like back-to-back sales meetings. The next thing why you might want to work fast is that you hope to be rewarded for it. Hopefully your business you work for rewards you with something, right? Some sort of monetary value, be it a bonus, a larger than normal raise, or a faster than normal career progression, or growth in some means. If you feel like your employer won't do that, you're welcome to tune out the rest of this talk. Just chill out, go on TikTok or something. And there's actually a really good sponsor for this conference you might want to talk to for finding a new employer. So hop on Seek if that's not your employer. Your employer should really recognize that and reward you where it matters, in your pay packet. It's good to build a reputation. You're the person who gets things done. It's a very good reputation to have in a business. You'll find opportunities, as well as things like those bonuses will come to you first. The next thing is that it increases the density of experience. And what I mean by density is a really important term for understanding the pace and the point of today's talk, but also why it will help you in your long run. So there's this quote that we can attribute to Abraham Lincoln, but it's debated who originally said it. He said, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. Now, if I was to paraphrase that and then rework it for my own means, it's not the years in your experience that count, it's the experience in your years. I think we can both agree that 10 years at a bank is very different to 10 years at a fast-moving startup, or 10 years at a business that's, maybe you're doing like Mac admin is very different to 10 years of doing Mac development. We have one incredibly naive measure of experience, and that is just years. You started working in 2010, now it's 2025, that's 15 years. You're just as good as any other person with 15 years experience. That's all we can do when we're reviewing CVs or all that sort of stuff. But the reality is it's very different. That day-to-day thing matters. So if you're at a slow-moving corporate company, you may want to increase the density of your experience, because just backlog tasks alone won't get you the density you're otherwise after. So density of experience is one big reason why moving faster can really help you long-term in your career. What's this talk not about? This talk is not about rushing. It's not about skipping steps or taking shortcuts, lowering the bar or compromising or shipping shit in any other words. I'm not trying to encourage you to make bad products and compromise your user experience and your company values that are probably tied to user experience. It's not about trying to speed run your way to burnout. If you try to work fast all the time, even if you love the work and you're experiencing things that would usually motivate you, like purpose, autonomy, and mastery, you're still going to get burnt out, no matter how happy you are. I'm also not trying to make your life miserable and your partner hate you and your fingers tired and getting RSI early. It's not about that. This is about mindsets and approach rather than just sheer hard work. It's about habits, okay? Habits stack, and they stack in both directions. Every little thing you do that makes you go faster adds up and compounds. And everything that you don't bother trying to do, is anchors against you, slows you down. There's this great book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, who famously spruiked the Streaks app, the Australian-made task habit tracking app that I think Quentin talked about last year. So in that book, basically the premise is, hey, these habits stack, and habit stacking is a now well-known, talked about thing. So today we're talking about largely habit stacking. So first section, mindset and approach. The first thing is you've got to want to go fast. It comes from you to start with. There's this idea in retail. I never worked in retail, but my wife did, and when she saw these slides, she was like, oh, that's what it used to be like when I worked in retail. In retail, you might go into a shop, someone might come up to you, hey, can I help you with sizes? Can I help you try on something? You're looking for something. Oh, we've got that in another color. I can check out back. What's your, do you want me to check for your size? There's always a sense of urgency, and that's partially for pushy sales reasons, but also partially they're trying to push the business forward as fast as they can, right? And it's the same if you go into like an ice cream shop. Do you want to try any flavors? All that sort of stuff. That's a sense of urgency. That's a bias, what we call now a bias towards action. We're always trying to do something to make the sale or to push the business forward. That is not something that, if I convince you today to go fast, you're going to be able to do at 9:01 on Monday morning. It takes time to put that into practice. It takes time to get good at respecting that sense of urgency you might build in yourself. It'll also come and go. You're not going to feel fast every single day. You're going to have good days, bad days, and that's totally fine. But having that sense of urgency is really important. It does get trickier if you find there's people around you who don't have that, and you might find these sorts of people at certain companies and you might not find them other sorts of companies. But try to surround yourself with people who also have a sense of urgency, and you'll get one just through atmosphere. The next thing is understanding the big picture of the business. What is this business you're working in? How does it make money? How does this current task help the business make money? Why are we doing it? You'll be surprised in the number of developers who happily pick up a task and have no idea the business reason for the task, which is absurd to me, especially as a manager. It's incredibly frustrating at times. If you understand the big picture of why the business has asked you to do this task, it can help you actually with the code, which sounds absurd at a high level, but on a more low level, it can help you with things like naming your classes, separating your concerns, spending a lot of time on something, versus spending a little amount of time on something. It's almost a little anti-agile to say look ahead and don't just design for the end of the sprint. But if you know where the business is going, you can decide whether or not to factor something out to a nice shared internal package versus make it a method here and move on. So it can help you decide these little trade-offs over a series of work, and that can save you time and make you go faster if you get that right. At the same time, if you had this knowledge of the business, it can help you more effectively challenge things that could save you time. Now, I know in iOS, and I think most front ends, we had this problem where, especially in Swift UI, we've got like, props drilling and event bubbling. Your designer might come to you and say, can we put the button here or at the top corner? And to a designer or a product owner, that's like, it's the same thing, button, how does it make a difference? And well, like you might say, well, that's actually like a 10 minutes job, where it's like a 3-hour refactor because I need to now bubble the event all the way up to the view controller and off to the coordinator or something like that. It's at that time, if you understand the business context, like, hey, they just need to quickly add this thing. Can I just put it there? Does anyone care? And the designer's like, no, I don't care. It's cool. Save myself 3 hours. Great. And a bunch of retesting. So looking to challenge those little things can save you a lot of time. Not always pick a fight with your designer, but, little things can help in a big way and help you go faster. So not just the business, but the code you're actually working on, understanding the big picture of that is also really important. You think about something like Swift UI, right? Swift UI is a very specific implementation of actually a really generic pattern. It's a declarative programming language, and the UI is a function of the state, right? You manipulate the state, and then your declarative code knows how to interpret the state to turn that into UI. That's not something that Apple invented, despite people at an Apple conference thinking Apple invented everything. That was popularized more by React. And used also in React Native, and many other languages and frameworks before that used it. So declarative languages, understanding that as a big picture can help you unstick yourself when you're stuck with issues around trying to maybe come from the UI kit world into the Swift UI world where you're going, I just want to on-click do a thing, and now I'm having to think about, how do I change the state? I have to change the state to make it work. I can't just change the box's coordinates or something like that. So that sort of little learning curve you go through when you change from UIKit to Swift UI, a lot of people went through when they changed from jQuery to React or something like that. It's pretty common. So having that kind of big picture understanding of the code. The same thing with Combine, right? Combine is implementation of processing a series of events over time. That's not something that Combine invented. That's just the way the world works. That's physics. Things happen over time and things care about them, things don't. But that's a pattern you see in the back-end world as well as other things like RxSwift is of course. So Combine, if you want to learn Combine, you already know that stuff, then it's a syntax learning exercise, not a foundational conceptual learning exercise. So if you understand the big picture of these code things, as you come across a new iteration or a new package that promises to do the same thing, it's quicker. You're quicker because you know what you're looking at and you're just trying to fit it into your mental model. The next thing is to slow down to speed up. This is the one I see people doing a lot, especially early career folks. They get frustrated, and as developers, we kind of pride ourselves on how great our brain is, and we get frustrated, and then we get embarrassed, and then we should start hacking. And we're like, maybe this will help, maybe this will help, and maybe this will help. And it's gotten a little bit worse with AI because we're just like, fix it please, fix it please, fix it please to the prompt, and it doesn't fix it. So don't just hack away at stuff to try to make it work. Take a step back, slow down, and eventually you will speed up. Okay, if you take the time to fully understand the thing you're working on and what you're doing, you'll move faster in the long run. I can promise you that. So this could be something like, learning Swift UI properly, rather than just going, I've learned HBox, I've learned VBox, I've learned text, I've learned image. That's like 90% of all the stuff I'm going to do. I'll learn collection next, and then I'm done. Try to learn, hey, there's a view, and they have subtypes, and that sort of stuff. The next thing is two-way doors. Software is reversible. Okay, we're very, 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 very privileged in software engineering, out of all the engineering disciplines, to not build physical stuff. Okay, we're not building roads, bridges, sound processors, that sort of stuff. You can change your mind if you're wrong. The amount of people who don't fully internalize that is astonishingly high. Okay, you don't have to panic about writing a line of code. If you're wrong, you'll find out real quick. It might even go red for you if you're lucky, and you can try again. Don't panic about trying to decide what to do. Just start, okay? And if you can't think of a good class name, don't sit there for 20 minutes walking around the office and say, hey, what's a good idea for this class name? Just call it foo and keep going, okay? People lose a lot of time to hesitation, and there's really no need to hesitate in software. There really isn't, because it's so changeable all the way up to production and after production. You can just ship an app update to change your mind. So most things are automatically reversible in software, but you should also give yourself options to reverse things. You should always ask yourself before you ship a product, what if we're wrong? How do I undo this? Can I roll back the app update? Can I fix forward? Do I feature flag something like that? If you can remove those hesitations, you'll go faster. Next section is mastering your tools. First thing is mastering your language. The majority of you in this room who are full-time iOS developers are probably writing Swift 5 to 8 hours a day. Swift should just flow out of your fingers, okay? And I know you had to relearn Swift 5, and from 4, from 3, from 2. I know it keeps changing. They love doing that. They won't just leave it alone. But it should be muscle memory, okay? And you're perfectly allowed and perfectly encouraged to go practice. If you struggle with writing a function that is asynchronous and takes a auto-escaping enclosure and does a weak self-dance in the middle of it, you can go practice that syntax or put it in a code snippet holder, that's fine. Build that muscle memory. Now, if you're at a company that doesn't give you much work or doesn't move fast enough to give you the amount of work that you build that muscle memory, that's when you might want to look at stuff beyond the backlog to get practice in. Now, last time I gave this talk, Neil kindly argued on this one for me. Neil argued that over his career he's changed languages a bunch of times. I agree. I've changed a bunch of languages as well. And I've built that muscle memory pretty quick into that language, enjoyed that language, moved on, felt useless for a little while and got good again. So you might not want to be writing Swift for the rest of your life. That's okay. I thought I would too, and now look. Just while you're current in it and while you're doing it and while that's your job, I recommend the muscle memory. Next thing is learn your IDE. Xcode is a powerful IDE. It's got a lot of functionality. There's a lot of menus, there's a lot of buttons. Do you know what they all do? Have you tried every instrument? Have you tried every button along the bottom, along the side, along the other side, along the top? Do you know you can change what's in the top bar? Do you know how to do multi-cursor editing? Do you know how to restart Xcode if it breaks without actually fully restarting the app? Do you know how to restart the state? Do you know when the language server's crashed? You know, when all the syntax highlighting goes away and it's like no point continuing. You've just gone back to Notepad at that point. Do you know how to clean out old simulators? Do you know how to delete derived data? This is a tool you're using all day. It would be weird to hire a plumber to come to your house and have them like pick up the wrench and just go, I wonder how this works. You would feel so nervous about that person attacking your pipes. I feel just as nervous when people are like, oh, how does Xcode work? And it's like, you're the iOS dev, you should know. Take the time, go exploring it. Read up tutorials, help each other learn, because that's the tool you're in most of the day is Xcode. It's worth taking your time and understanding stuff. There's the debugger in there, did you know? And it can do more than just PO. There's other things you can do in the debugger as well. It's very cool. So learn your IDE, learn the tools, and you'll be surprised what can help you save time in there. And then extend it, okay? Xcode, whilst terrible, can support extensions. And it used to be better, and I don't know where it's at the moment. Not quite current. But things like Visual Studio Code that I use, very extension rich. Find and install extensions that can help you for your daily tasks. Then practice using them. Your brain doesn't, in the same way you don't get fit by buying a pair of running shoes, you don't go faster just by installing an extension. You need to get in the habit of using the extension. You need to get the habit of going, oh, I need to make a commit. Oh, it's time to go to the Git UI in Xcode and write my message and then push it. You need to kind of do that mental model of I've got another situation, time to use my tool. So you need to practice for them. You should also give and ask for recommendations with your team. My team actually has a way to check in our recommendations for extensions for VS Code. I don't think anything like that in Xcode exists. But if you've got an onboarding guide for your team, you could put it there. You could put it in the README of the project. Hey, this project's a bit weird, and this Xcode plugin will really, really help you. set them up for yourself and others, and enjoy their sweet rewards. Next thing is being an expert in all other tools, of course. Xcode's not your probably only tool. You might use something like GitHub or GitLab, Jira, Slack, Teams, Outlook, anything else you might use at work. Just get good at them. Once again, they are your toolbox for your job. And once again, if your plumber came to your house and go, I know wrenches a lot, but I don't know what screwdrivers do, you'd be like, still not feeling comfortable about that. Why is it in your toolbox? So be on the lookout for more tools that can help you save time. Once again, giving and asking for recommendations for tools is a really cool way to help yourself and your team. Just get good at them. It's blind advice, but it's right. Next thing is using terminal aliases in dot files. So some of you might use the terminal for some tasks, maybe Git. So I use something like how I call GCO, Git checkout, because typing out Git checkout is longer and slower than typing GCO. I have about 20 aliases I think I've built up over the years and got into the habit of using. Hopefully you are also starting to build your aliases. There's a link there at the bottom right for links for some explaining what dot files are. Dot files obviously are config files in Unix-based systems. We call them dot files because they've got a dot at the start of the file name. I tend to take mine from business to business. Mine are all checked in on my GitHub. They're very personal. Sharing mine is not going to help you. Find ones that work for you and your brain and your daily tasks. Once again, share with your teammates, see if that's helpful. At some point during iOS, I had like DD for derived data, and that would just find the derived data folder and clear it. I hear that's not so much a problem anymore, but it was really a problem back in the day. I really don't like derived data. I might have stuck around if it wasn't a problem. So yeah, aliases, dot files, super helpful for setting up your terminal the way you like it. Next thing is efficient workflow practices. Searching documentation smartly. You should understand how Apple organizes their documentation. You should know how to go from maybe the word string to the documentation for string. There's command something. I don't anymore. You should be able to jump to the areas you want. You might something like, if you're looking at a collection view, you might be aware that there's a data source and a delegate for that. How do you get to the delegate commands? How do you get to the data source commands? You can use Command F, you can search for that. You might also start to notice that if you're using open source frameworks, they might also just use the same docs generation framework. Sometimes there's like a light dark button in the right corner. There's like a search box somewhere in the middle. There's a menu down the left-hand side. I recognize this framework. I know that search sucks. It's like worse than just doing Control F on the page. Or I know this other one. You start to get to know some of these documentation sites, like Read the Docs and stuff like that. So it's helpful to like understand those and just know if the search is worth using or something like that. What we're trying to do here is shorten that loop. That loop is, I need the docs, I'm in the docs, I found the doc I want. If you can shorten that, that saves you time. So the first half of that, getting to the docs, should be one click or one bookmark click away. Finding the docs should be a search away. Yeah. Next thing is shortening your debug loop. This is one that people get sort of wrong a lot. I define the debug loop as the time from I finish writing the code to I know it's time. I know it's working. So if that involves a compile or a unit test run, that's your debug loop, right? So we tend to shorten this in the iOS community. We use the simulator that generally launches faster than the device. A unit test runs even faster than the simulator, so you might want to use that instead. We also have playgrounds in the iOS world. Very helpful. But also don't be ashamed to build a demo app. If you're trying to get some fancy transition working, and you don't feel the need to log in, navigate to the screen, to the submenu, to the other submenu, just to get to the page every time to test your transition, just rip it out, put it in a demo app, and then you launch straight into the thing, you can debug that. That's very common. It's a very good practice. I had a very weird conversation the other day at work where someone was asking me, I was asking the team to stop using, the mobile team to stop using domain names in our email addresses that weren't the Cochlear domain, right? Try to use test.cochlear.com just in case we end up sending an email to the real website you use in this dev environment, just in case, it's a safe patches. And one developer pushed back and was like, oh, but a.com is really fast to type. I'm like, why are you typing that? He's like, oh, because when I log in, launch the app, I need to log in, then I can do my thing. I'm like, Why have you not just like hard-coded those login details just so you can tap login and keep going, or even just like hard-coded skipping the login screen? It's like, I'm like, this person has probably wasted 2 or 3 hours a week just logging in on the debug loop, which is just absurd to me. So you can totally do things like skipping the login, hard-coding the login details. In woodworking, they've got this notion of like a jig. So like when they're cutting out lengths of wood, let's say they're exactly 1 meter, they'll have a pre-cut piece that's already 1 meter. So you just line it up with the existing piece, and then you're guaranteed to cut wood 1 meter long. So we call those jigs, sometimes they're called rigs. Building your own jigs in the software world, I'm a big fan of. Building tools to help you do your job, really helpful. They can be thrown away, they can be reused, but they'll save you a lot of time. Get in the habit of that. The ROI for that is getting better with AI, because that thing could be like a bash file. You don't know bash syntax, but AI does, and it does an okay job of it, especially for 10 lines. So yeah. Next thing is bookmark everything. Oh, I'm running way behind. Oops. Yes, you know how bookmarks works. Get in the habit of practicing them, and also do a tidy up every kind of 6 to 12 months of your bookmarks. Try to mentally bookmark this as well, so you know you've got the bookmark for it. Next thing is scaling yourself. So we talk a lot about, like, in sort of, business speak, individual contributor versus like a force multiplier. And as an individual developer, you might be considered an individual contributor. If you are building something and then you try to move on to the next thing, and people have to ask you about the thing you just built, you've arguably failed, right? Because you've halved your output. You're half now on this new thing and half supporting the old thing. Okay? It's important to try leave stuff in a way that does the talking for you, such that you don't get asked about it again. That's what I'm doing right now in this talk. I'm saving a one-on-one conversation with each of you in the room. I can just link people to this talk. I can link people I encounter in the future this talk. Great documentation, does the explaining for you, so you can focus on the next thing. You've scaled yourself. And by way of practical example of this, in my team, we've got about 50 internal packages that we've published just within the team. I've written about 15 of those personally. I've not answered any questions about that since they've been published. They are being used, but just they're off adding value while I'm on to the next thing. Automating repetitive tasks, obviously. The CLI tooling scripts, Swift is a very capable scripting language, so you already know Swift scripting language. Does your team have an internal CLI? Mine does. It's really good. We put all our common commands we need to run that are company specific in there, and we maintain it in a language that everything else is maintained, which is TypeScript for my team. As I said before, the ROI for that is changing with AI. What could have been 3 days of banging your head against the wall trying to get a 20-line bash script working now can be minutes, seconds. Have you had an automation hackathon recently in your team? My team has one every quarter. You'll be surprised what comes out of something like that. The next thing is staying busy. If you're blocked, move on to something else, okay? Don't wait for stand-up. The amount of times I've seen that. So I got stuck yesterday afternoon. I waited for 3 hours and now I'm here at 9 a.m. stand-up. Okay. Try to have 1 or 2 backlog tasks on the go, plus some extracurriculars. Your manager will always have something for you. No manager is going, I wish I could find more work for my team. We've always got the opposite problem. We are trying to find people to join the team. So yeah, there was a period of time in my life where my code would be in code review and I'd ask people to go have a game of table tennis instead. Nowadays, I just move on to something else. Next section is collaboration and knowledge sharing. A big part of going faster is sharing and learning. If you take away anything today, it is leveraging what already exists. Okay. Now, a lot of us are familiar with using packages from like Cocoa Pods, Carthage, Swift Package Manager, that sort of stuff. I don't think people apply that mindset enough internally to their own company. Chances are you're not the first person in the world to work on something. And chances are you're probably not the first person in your company to work on something. So if you're working at like an agency, for example, and you're banging out apps for different clients, chances are those apps are going to have similar functionality or maybe a similar thing. Just go pinch the code from the other app. Maybe you're at a bank and you have an app for your retail customers versus your business customers, but they have a similar screen for configuring phone number. You might already have a text box that can accept a phone number and knows how to validate that. Just go pinch it. Okay, look around. Be reading the room constantly. Pay attention to things like sprint reviews, other repositories. You might have a Slack channel that has all the merge requests opening and closing and in your code repository. Just copy them. It's fine. Just copy them. Just pinch it. Steal it. Saves you time. You can use existing packages, you can use existing architectures to stay consistent. Awareness like that saves time. It does slow down a little bit in the meantime because you have to go to meetings for sprint reviews and stuff like that. But it means you can just, you've got a mental model for who knows what and what they do. My dad always said this a lot. It's not what you know, it's who you know, because of what they know. So it's important to build a mental map. Who knows what at your company, who's the guru in X, Y, and Z. And then if you're stuck on that thing, go have a chat to them. But back to that shiny UI, there's also a really good content out there about how you build on those shiny UIs. And this is my totally natural slide with Tim in it. So there's a really great talk from Tim last year on how to build one of those shiny UIs, because he did it in the Threads app. So that's a solved problem. Just go watch the talk. Don't spend 3 weeks figuring that out by yourself. Just YouTube content is also a great way. That's why we recorded these talks at DevWorld, so you can link them and read them and watch them over time. Leaving and reading clues is a really important part. So similar to like writing a good README, you can leave good clues. And I'll give you a really simple example of this. Let's say you're building an app and it's got a tab bar and you're going to have a series of views over time. In sprint 1, you might build 2 views. So it might be really easy to go, well, if view 1, else it's going to be view 2. Maybe just make that an enum on day 1. And then when the next sprint comes along, you can add a 3rd view into the enum, and then your compiler will just start telling you where you need to go handle that and all your switch case statements. Really subtle stuff, but it can leave clues for the next person. Sticking to the code pattern of the code base also helps there. But your future teammates and even your future self will help you a lot if you just kind of leave subtle clues. Asking for help at the right time. Now this could be a talk of its own. You won't get good at this, you'll just suck less at it. I had a period of time in my career where I was at a company where I was left to my own devices quite a lot, and I had a really tough time. Like I felt very isolated and absolutely sucked. But it was awesome for me and the next error message versus the world. And I learned incredibly good skills around problem solving independently, where I previously would have gone talk to colleagues about it. It was just me, Google, this is pre-AI, me and Google and Stack Overflow, just versus the world. That's really helpful, and you should definitely have the experience sometime in your career. It absolutely sucks, but it makes you an absolute genius. However, there is a time to ask for questions. Generally speaking, the rule of thumb I use now is try to respect the time of the person you're going to ask. Say, I've got this problem, I've tried A, B, and C, what do you think? And they might go, well, B and C are laughable, but it's a variant of A you want. You were so close, go that way. I used to tell juniors, like a 2-hour rule, like, wait for 2 hours. If you're stuck for 2 hours, you can come have a chat to me. They'll be stuck after 15 minutes, and there's 1 hour 45 on YouTube, and they'll come have a chat to me. After that, that's not going to work. It's not a unit of time, it's a unit of effort. So put an effort before you ask for help. Documenting what you're learning, right? It helps it sink into your brain when you document. It also helps you share and teach like I am now. Writing helps retention. Doesn't have to be a talk, doesn't have to be anything formal. It can be a blog post, it can be a TikTok, it can be a private diary. You don't have to put it on the internet or anything like that. If you do this a lot more at work, you start to build a really nice work culture where people are sharing constantly, and the whole work just feels like one big long dev world, and it's awesome. So lock on the learning, but I'll talk about that a bit about that later on. Next section is continuous improvement. Practice makes perfect. That's just it's a boring old phrase, but it's just right, okay? Go find more time to code if you want to get better at code. Now, obviously that comes with the privilege of time and stuff like that, which you might not have, and I apologize if you don't. But if you can, do some side projects, go to hackathons, go to a startup weekend, working on internal tools that can help you get more practice. The more you code, the more efficient you'll become. The more problems you would have seen, the faster you'll go. As I said earlier, there's always more stuff to be done at work. Just ask. My team has a backlog of tasks that we are considering low priority or extracurricular. We sort of call it the practice backlog task. We generally onboard people with 1 or 2 tasks on there, and if you finish one of those tasks, you get a packet of Tim Tams. Because it's helpful to the business, but there's no way a product owner is going to prioritize that stuff. It's like, go upgrade the linting version in this other project at some point. Cool. Get us to this next node version or something like that. So it'd be a good idea to start building a backlog of stuff like that. Your lead probably already has a mental backlog like that. Get it into a tracking tool, like at least a Word document that's shared. And yeah, it's a good place to start picking up extra practice stuff. Next thing is reflecting. Reflecting is really important. I have this saying I'm starting to use now, experience equals work plus reflection. The amount of people who don't reflect on their work, they really just kind of get sensations. I don't think they get experience. If you don't lock in, what you did, why you did it that way, what were the unique constraints, why was it done in a different way. If you don't kind of ask yourself these questions, you're not really learning. You're not going to build up a series of situations in your head, or this mental toolbox, so that you can go out to the next project and sort of pattern match of like, oh yeah, I've seen that before, I know the answer. That's what experience is, just seeing stuff, remembering why it was like that, what you did, and then chances are you'll see something similar enough again, you can do the same sort of solution again. So if you don't really know what that is for your current task, you can also ask your lead. But reflecting will make you go a lot faster because your learnings will just lock in. Running short on time, there's a few things. Just extra, obviously good chair, keyboard, high tempo music helps me personally. Focus time, really important, pair programming, and reading and learning and that sort of stuff. Okay, time for the anvil drop. Some words on AI, right? It's the elephant in the room. Hey, how was that? I thought Tim almost had the same joke this morning, but I was really nervous. Look, AI has its issues. Tim covered them this morning. Power consumption, copyright, creativity. I don't like the way we've got to the current state we are. Let me make that clear. But we're here and the cat's out of the bag. There's no putting it back in the bag, right? I think AI represents a step change in technology, probably even society. I probably wouldn't say that about like 3D TV and the blockchain and the other things that people were hyping up the last couple of years. But those hypers have come over to AI, regrettably. But I do think this one we should take a little bit more seriously. So my only advice to you really about AI is stay curious. Just be curious about it. Try it out. See what works for you. Install it in your IDE. It has tools now in VS Code. I'm seeing a lot of good anecdotes out of mobile developers who are having Xcode and acknowledging that AI is a bit shit, but also opening their code base in something like VS Code or Cursor. But now the syntax highlighting works. It's not an IDE, like you can't build and run from there, but it's just a copilot, like an agentic copilot, and text, and it's just very good at kind of answering questions about the code base, and the tooling is better. So feel free to use a second IDE purely for AI stuff. Totally fine. What I want you to do is develop a good intuition of when AI will be good and when AI will be bad. Okay, that's what we do when we come across any new tool. We try it out, we test it. Oh yeah, it's good in this situation, it's bad in this situation. Now, somewhat differently to other situations with other tools, reevaluate that. At this rate, every 3 months, new models, new tools, new IDEs, new plugins come out. And you can't just learn this once and go, yep, AI is bad or AI is good. Research done. That's just a foolish mindset. Reevaluate that every few months with latest models, latest tooling, and go from there. In terms of AI and your learning, you can use it to accelerate your learning, not replace it completely. Okay? AI has been trained on stuff from the public internet, and so if there's lots of it on the internet, the AI will be good at it. Okay? So if it's common knowledge and not your knowledge, it's a good thing to ask AI about. It's common knowledge how code signing works, or provisioning profiles, or Swift UI. If it's just not your knowledge yet, great. You've got a no dumb questions tutor, a person who won't think you're an idiot as you ask very basic questions. You know, what is a public key? What is a private key? Why are there two? If it's not common knowledge, that's where AI will struggle most of the time. Okay, if you're trying to ask about the specific, line of code at your company that no one else has ever seen before, it's not going to know. It might explain some of the syntax to you, but yeah, it's good for common knowledge. And hopefully you can recognize when something is common knowledge, not your knowledge. Usually that's when your imposter syndrome kicks in. I'm like, oh, everyone understands code signing but me. So yeah, try with that. See how it goes. I've got a blog post on my blog for using AI as a tutor. It's a really good thing if you are trying to do something where you think it's common knowledge, it's not your knowledge. I've used it for, how does my router work? What's all the software running on my router? Because I didn't really kind of understand that until recently. I've used it for a lot of explaining stuff like IAM roles in AWS. And I've had many hour-long, like multi-hour-long conversations with my AI tutor, just trying to lock in my learning for that sort of stuff. So, in conclusion, going faster isn't about just typing faster. We've got some tools for that now. It's about producing faster. The holistic art and craft of producing high-quality software. It's about forming a series of habits that will make you the best you can be. And the habits you build today and you learn about today will compound, and you keep working on them, and they'll help you for the rest of your career. And I wish you the best of luck for that. Thank you very much.
Oh, so good. How much wisdom just kind of flows from this man. I'm not joking here. This is true. I have a to-do list at home. I'm kind of old school. I keep it on paper. And there is a section, I'm not kidding, there is a section on my to-do list. It's like stuff that Sam has told me to do to improve my work, my business, my life. It keeps getting longer every year because I pick up stuff from here and I put them in, and I'm better at kind of recognizing wisdom than actually implementing it. But yeah, I have a Sam list. You should have a Sam list. We have time for a couple of questions. Who's got one at the back?
Hey, what tips might you have for managing context switching, especially if you're like for example, running a project, or you're kind of expected to do multiple things at once? How would you?
Context switching. I find it hard to give advice on context switching. I find context switching really straightforward, and I'm very, very lucky to have that sort of brain that can do that. Firstly, if you can avoid it, try avoid it. If you can lock out time, block your calendar, refuse meetings, that's totally kosher. It's totally okay to have focus time. Mute your Slack, put your Slack notification saying I'm having focus time, use that emoji. People will respect that. And encourage other people in your team to do that as well. So firstly, try to avoid that. If you are context switching a lot, and you feel like it's hard, you need to kind of figure out. Context switching is a metaphor from computers where we literally take something out of RAM and put it onto disk and vice versa. You need to figure out what your disk is. Like, is it a note-taking app? Is it like an audio snippet or something like that? What does your memory dump look like? What is the efficiency of your getting your memory, like your working memory in and out of, like the content in and out of your working memory is what I'd recommend working on. So if you find it hard to remember things or context switch, a good note-taking app or a good to-do list is really important. In the last couple of years, as I've become more of a leader in my business rather than a developer, my skills around like time management, to-do lists, note-taking have really raised up. They've just had to, but it's really paid dividends because, my job is running from meeting to meeting, pushing things forward as far as I can. I love it. I love the variety. I'd hate to code 8 hours a day on the same ticket, but I know people struggle with it, but that's my advice. Hopefully that helps. Thank you very much. Oh yeah.